Okay, so ready to dive in. We're taking a deep dive today into Colleen Hoover's It Ends With Us.
Ooh, I'm ready.
We're going way deeper than your usual book chat. We're going to unpack those intense emotions, the complexity of these characters, all that good stuff.
It's a book that stays with you, that's for sure.
Right, it really gets under your skin. So the story jumps between Lily's diary entries and what's happening in her life, right? Present day stuff.
Exactly. And that back and forth is really important. We get these glimpses into Lily's childhood, her relationship with her parents, and it all adds another layer to her. You understand her in a whole different way.
Makes you think about how much our past shapes who we are.
100%.
And those diary entries, they're addressed to Ellen DeGeneres. I thought that was fascinating. What do you make of that?
At first, it seems like, why Ellen? But it actually tells you so much about Lily. It's like she's dealing with all this heavy stuff, and humor is her outlet. Finding the light in the darkness kind of thing.
Yeah, we all need that, right? That thing that keeps us going even when things are tough.
For sure. And for Lily, it's like she's searching for something she's never really had, a healthier love than what she grew up with. You feel that yearning in her voice.
Yeah, it makes you think about your own life. Who's your Ellen? Who do you turn to when you need a little laughter, a little lightness?
Oh, that's a good question. And it's something I think a lot of readers connect with in Lily's story. We all need that someone, that person who reminds us that even when things are tough, there's still joy to be found.
Right, absolutely. And it's not like Lily had it easy growing up. I mean, witnessing her father's abuse towards her mother, that's bound to leave scars.
It's heartbreaking, honestly.
So how do you think that experience shapes her view of love as she gets older?
It's a huge factor. I mean, Lily enters adulthood terrified of becoming her mother, repeating those patterns. She wants love, craves it, really, but she's also scared.
It's like she's caught between this deep desire for something she's never had and this fear of reliving a painful past.
And that's such a relatable struggle for so many people, right? Wanting something so badly, but being afraid of it at the same time.
Totally. And then Atlas enters the picture. He's this figure from her past who reappears at such a crucial moment in her life. You mentioned it earlier, he was kind of a refuge for her as a teenager.
Yeah, definitely. Their first encounter is so powerful because they're both so vulnerable. Lily's struggling with her parents, and Atlas is homeless, living in an abandoned house.
Wow.
Yeah, and somehow he becomes this unexpected source of comfort for her. Like a safe haven in the middle of all the chaos.
And his name, Atlas. It's hard not to think about the symbolism there, like he's carrying the weight of the world, just like his namesake.
It's so perfect, isn't it? And he really does become that for Lily, this pillar of support, helping her carry her own burdens. It's also interesting how he challenges her perceptions of homelessness, of social responsibility, making her look beyond her own experiences.
It's amazing how these chance encounters, these seemingly small moments, can have such a profound impact on our lives.
It makes you wonder, doesn't it? Like, who are the people who have shaped us, even in the smallest ways?
It's like those little nudges, those moments of connection that can change the course of our entire lives.
Sometimes the people we meet in the most unexpected places end up leaving the biggest mark.
It's like you said, those connections, even the fleeting ones, they can stay with us. And for Lily, Atlas's reappearance in her life, well, it's complicated.
You say the least, right? Especially because by then, there's Ryle.
Yeah, Ryle, charming, successful neurosurgeon, totally smitten with Lily. On paper, he's everything she thought she wanted.
Seems that way, doesn't it?
So what makes Ryle so complex?
Well, that's where Hoover is so good. She takes this guy who seems perfect and slowly starts to unravel him. Ryle has his own baggage, his own fears of turning into his parents, repeating their mistakes.
We talked about family earlier. I'm curious about his relationship with Alyssa, his sister. Does that tell us anything about how Ryle views family, commitment, all of that?
Oh, definitely. The way Ryle is with Alyssa, it's really interesting. It's like that's one of the few times you see him being truly vulnerable. He's so protective of her, which I think shows he's capable of love, loyalty, all those good things. But there's also this tension, right? This fear of messing things up the way his parents did. It adds a whole other dimension to his character.
And that's where things get really interesting, don't you think?
What?
Lily's caught between these two guys, Atlas and Ryle, each representing something different, a different kind of love, a different future.
Totally.
Yeah.
And it's what makes the whole dynamic so captivating. It's not your typical love triangle. It's more than that. It's about Lily facing her past, her present, and ultimately trying to figure out who she wants to be, the kind of love she deserves.
It makes you think about how our past relationships shape our expectations for the future.
100%.
It's like we're drawn to what we know,
Yeah.
even if it's not good for us.
It's that comfort in the familiar, even when it hurts.
Exactly. And Hoover uses all this symbolism to highlight these journeys, these internal battles. We talked about Atlas and his name, but Lily Bloom, that's got to be deliberate too, right?
Oh, absolutely. You get this sense of delicacy, fragility almost, but also the potential for growth, transformation, like a flower blooming, right? Under the right conditions, Lily can blossom, become the stronger version of herself. It's a beautiful image.
And then there's Ryle Kincaid. Maybe not as obviously symbolic as the others, but there's something about it.
What do you think it is?
I don't know, there's a kind of clinical precision to it, almost cold.
You're spot on. It's like his name reflects his profession, this detached, almost surgical precision.
It's those little things, those details that add so much depth. Speaking of details, we haven't touched on those recurring dreams Lily has about the homeless girl. What's your take on those?
Those are fascinating, aren't they? They're symbolic, for sure, operating on different levels. What do they make you think of?
Honestly, they're kind of unsettling. It's like Lily sees herself in that girl, like a reflection of her own vulnerability.
I can see that. A fear of ending up lost and alone.
And the connection to Atlas, right,
Mm-hmm.
with his past, it's almost subconscious, this link between them.
Totally. Like Lily's being drawn back to him, back to that sense of safety, understanding that he offered her.
Hoover's so good at weaving those subtle connections, those layers of meaning throughout the whole story. We have to address the elephant in the room. It ends with us is a tough read at times.
For sure. It stays with you.
It's more than just a romance. It tackles some really difficult issues. Domestic abuse, specifically.
Absolutely. And I think that's one of the reasons it resonates so strongly with people. Hoover doesn't shy away from the hard stuff.
And she does it in a way that feels so real, so raw,
Right. There's no sugarcoating. It's messy and complicated, just like real life.
And she doesn't make it black and white either. There are no easy answers, no clear-cut heroes or villains.
Exactly. She gives you these flawed characters, these relatable characters who are just trying to figure things out. And sometimes they make mistakes, big ones.
It makes them human, though. It makes you root for them even when you know they're messing up.
And that brings us to one of the most important themes in the book, the cycle of abuse.
So heartbreaking to see how it plays out, how it repeats itself.
We see it first with Lily's parents,
Right.
right? And it shapes everything, how she views love, relationships, everything. And then to see it start to happen again with her and Ryle.
It's like she's simultaneously drawn to it and trying to break free, this constant push and pull.
And that internal conflict, it's so powerful because it's real. A lot of people have been there, stuck in that cycle, trying to break free from the past.
It makes you realize how deeply those early experiences can shape us.
Trauma is a powerful thing. It leaves its mark, even when we try to outrun it. And that's what Hoover captures so brilliantly in this book, the lasting impact of those early wounds.
It's that feeling of never truly escaping, like you're always trying to outrun something you can't see.
And it takes such a toll. It chips away at your self-worth, makes you question if you even deserve something better.
It's like the abuse becomes the norm, the thing you start to expect.
And that's what makes it so insidious. It distorts your perception, makes it hard to recognize the red flags, the warning signs.
And Hoover, she doesn't shy away from showing those red flags, those subtle ways emotional abuse can creep in.
Right. Like when Ryle isolates Lily from her friends, her family even, or how he uses jealousy, possessiveness, and tries to pass it off as love.
It's scary how real it feels. Like you could open up this book and see your relationship, playing out on those pages.
Exactly. And that's why it's so important, especially for younger people who are just starting to navigate relationships, to see those red flags, to know that it's not okay.
It's about setting boundaries, knowing your worth, refusing to accept anything less than respect.
And that can be so hard, especially when you've grown up surrounded by those unhealthy patterns. It's like you don't know any different.
Which is why seeing Lily break free, even if it's messy, even if it hurts, it's powerful. It gives you hope.
It reminds you that you have a choice. You don't have to repeat the past. You can choose a different ending.
Speaking of endings, I have to ask you about the ending of It Ends With Us. I don't want to spoil anything, but for those who haven't read it yet, how would you describe where Lily ends up?
That's a tough one. It's an ending that will stay with you, that's for sure. I wouldn't call it happy or sad, necessarily. More like honest.
I like that. Honest.
Hoover doesn't tie everything up neatly. There are no easy answers. But she leaves Lily at a turning point, having made an incredibly difficult choice.
And that's what makes it so impactful, right? That recognition that sometimes the bravest, most loving thing you can do is walk away. even if it hurts like hell.
Even if it means letting go of someone you still care about. It's about choosing yourself, your own well-being. And on a larger scale, it sparks these really important conversations about domestic abuse, about support systems, about breaking the cycle.
It goes beyond just the characters, the story itself. It makes you think about the bigger picture.
Exactly. It makes you think about the choices we make, the impact they have, not just on ourselves, but on future generations. It's a powerful message.
It Ends With Us is more than just a romance. It's a story about survival, about resilience, about finding the strength to write your own story. It's a story that stays with you long after you close the book.
And a story that hopefully encourages those important conversations to continue.
Absolutely. To everyone listening, if It Ends With Us left a mark on you, if it sparks something inside you, share your thoughts, your interpretations. Keep the conversation going.
And if you or someone you know is struggling with domestic violence, remember you're not alone. Reach out, seek help. There are resources, there is support, and there is hope for a brighter future.
Beautifully said. And on that note, we'll wrap up our deep dive into Colleen Hoover's impactful novel, It Ends With Us. Thanks for joining us as we explore the characters, themes, and lasting resonance of this incredible book.
It's been a pleasure.
Until next time, keep those pages turning and keep those conversations flowing.